Welcome to part 4 of the Rebels campaign for Star Wars Emperor at War. Last time we did the story mission in Kashyyyk, liberating the planet successfully, but this unlocked a whole load of extra planets added to the game, now mostly under Empire control, so we're at a disadvantage. The enemy also revealed that they had a powerful new fleet with an Imperial Star Destroyer and an Interdictor, which was easily able to take Kuat, but we then took it back because the enemy just wandered off somewhere and allowed us to do so, so that was lucky enough. We pushed on to attack Bothawui and took it as well, using a successful armoured assault. However, while we then had that powerful frontline position, the enemy just went around us with their powerful fleet and started taking planets behind us, and really, it looks like they could just keep doing that if they wanted to, so I needed a plan to somehow turn the tables here. We need to take something like 4 or 5 Empire planets to get some kind of economic equality or potential equality, but every time we go to attack a planet, the things we leave behind will just be attacked because we don't have the money to defend across our weirdly shaped domain. And here I found a potential way to remedy that problem. We're going to just set it to easy, a masterful strategy. If only the great strategists of history had thought of this. So we're just going to see what it does. It doesn't actually tell you what difference it makes. We're going to now just make some attacks and see if it's easy. I fly first to Nal Hutta to cut off all of the Empire forces who are in our territory from the rest of the Empire territory. In this case, I happened to arrive just as loads of Empire stuff had just left the planet, so there was nothing really there and we can easily take it. But the Empire's big fleet is still there to the north at Kashyyyk, so that's going to be a target we need to take down. It could at any moment just attack our undefended places nearby, but it's not doing it right now, and I don't really know how much the enemy is supposed to know about you. Maybe they just don't know we don't have any units and that's why they're not attacking. I tried auto-resolving an attack on Nal Hutta, but we lost most of our ground army. There was no garrison there, so I thought I'd just get a favourable auto-resolve, but we nearly lost. We got away with just some tanks. It was an absolute disaster, so for the 3rd or 4th time now, our whole land army has been destroyed. Still, it's that space fleet I want to take down. If we can destroy it, then our planets nearby will be safe for a while at least. So we're just going to send everything we have in and see what we can do. We do have a bigger fleet in terms of population count, but the pop cap in battles means that we can't deploy most of it. Things started off pretty well because the enemy attacked with their missile cruisers. I dodged my fighters away to avoid just losing them all instantly this time, and then used my ships to take out the cruisers easily. I keep saying cruisers, by the way, they're actually Corvette class ships if you happen to care, and all the things on the Empire side that are called cruisers are usually frigate class ships, just to add to the confusion. As you can see, I accidentally attacked with just a couple of Nebulon Bs on their own for some reason, then brought them back to form up into a group because we need our corvettes to be near our frigates to take down the enemy's infinitely respawning bombers and fighters, which over time will easily destroy our Nebulon Bs if we don't keep things under control. One of the enemy's Victory frigates comes out on its own to engage our fleet, and that's perfect for us because now we can focus it down without taking a massive amount of return fire from the other frigates, although still plenty. There we go. We need to bring in reinforcements, of course. We're just going to take losses where we need to and try and replace any ships that we lose. We've got plenty of frigates in reserve, so we've got lots of firepower for later in the fight if we need it. We've also got lots of bombers to use, and because the enemy don't have any anti-fighter class corvettes, our bombers will survive for a decent amount of time and will be able to blow up all the shield generators on the various frigates to make our life easier. Making things harder though is the fact that the enemy Imperial Star Destroyer eventually comes to join the fight. It was just hanging around at the top of the map, so now I need to try and focus it down. Our corvettes wipe out a massive wave of fighters and bombers, which keeps my frigates alive a bit more, so they can keep focusing down that Imperial Star Destroyer. We do plenty of damage, but I'm now actually going to switch to take out that acclimator that's close by since it's nearly dead. And at the same time, up in the top right, you can see my bombers have had success just constantly doing bombing runs on an enemy Victory class frigate, and they managed to bring it down. Now we can switch back to trying to take down the ISD, and after about a minute of focus firing it and just somehow not dying to all of the return fire from other things, we're able to take it out. And it is a fight that gets easier as it goes on, so that helps since you take out all of the guns on the thing and then it can't shoot you, so it's just sitting there absorbing fire and eventually goes down. So we've done the hardest part of the fight. There are still plenty of those Victory class Star Destroyers to take down though, and now we're fighting 3 at once. A rough match for our setup here, I think, since many of my ships have had their guns disabled, so we're not at full strength even though we are near the top of our pop cap, since I think ships with guns disabled still count the same towards your population space. In the end then, it's kind of hard to say who has the absolute advantage, but we have the advantage in tactics at least, because we can focus fire the enemy ships and destroy their guns and take them out more quickly than they can do the same to us, even with the same amount of firepower, because they're wasting shots shooting into the shields of corvettes or the shields of units that have high shields and so are unlikely to be completely depleted by the attacks. And we also get a little bit lucky because one of the enemy frigates decided to wander off back to the north end of the map, and the one left behind could be focused down very easily. So we've ended up taking all of them out without losing any of our own nearly dead frigates, so that was pretty lucky. Then I just advanced forward and took out the space station. It was only a level 1 space station, so they're easy to destroy. And then finally the last frigate came back into the fight, but everything can come in to attack it now, so it should be fine. In this case I realised this is a chance to use this feature in the game, the battle cam, I think it's called something like that. It just gives you dynamic shots of what's happening. It's something which you can very rarely use because of the amount of micro required to actually play the game. Like if you were watching the battle like this, you'd probably just die. But there it is. It's a little bit similar to how in Total War, if you actually bother zooming in to watch the fights, you'll just lose because you're meant to be microing. And there's the final result. Things went pretty well. We lost loads of bombers, but we didn't lose any frigates, and the enemy lost loads, including the Imperial Star Destroyer. So that's absolutely perfect. I think it really was easier on easy difficulty. I'm not sure, but it felt to me like my men or my ships had more health, or the enemy had less attack, or maybe the enemy had less health. Just in some way, our ships which previously struggled to beat the enemy equivalent things did so quite easily. As we see there, I also got a cheeky little battle against an enemy transport and took it down. Then I was having this weird glitch where the camera kept scrolling to the left, but we recovered from that eventually. So now we've got a more stable looking front line. The Empire are sort of cut off from all the things they have behind our lines. I can't actually take Kashyyyk right now because I lack a ground military, so I'm going to have to spend some time building one up. I realised here that you can start building things while the game is paused, which makes things easier and stops you from being surprise attacked quite so much. You can't give movement orders while the game is paused though, so you do have to do all your movements in real time. So here I sent a few units to take Kashyyyk, and we can do so just with an auto-resolve because it has no buildings on it, so there was nothing spawning. It was just the ATSTs. I would have done it for free if I'd bothered to fight it myself, but I couldn't be bothered. So there we have it, we've got a planet back. I still want to take everything that's back there though, so we can then end up getting things focused in just one direction. That's our strategic goal. What I really need right now is to have more than one fleet so that we can defend more than one position at once, as evidenced by this attack. A small Imperial fleet goes to attack Nal Hutta, and we're just not there, so we can't stop them. I think I probably would be safe here to actually split my main fleet into two, because it's getting pretty big over time. Anyway, I decided to fight this battle to see what we could do with the free units that spawn from the space station. This space station actually spawns corvettes, which makes things much more viable, because our corvette can shoot this massive wave of fighters and bombers that's coming at us, and while the enemy frigates have hangars that spawn those units, the hangars on ships don't actually spawn them infinitely. They stop spawning them after a while. So our corvette was able to take out all of the enemy's fighter and bomber support. Then we can use our own bombers, which are spawning infinitely from the hangar in the space station, I believe at least, to attack the enemy frigates. And there you can see we were able to take down one of the enemy's acclimators. They blew up our corvette, but we'll get another one in a minute to come and help us out. Now we can try the same thing on these Victory frigates. One of them comes off on its own to the edge of the map, just next to the space station, perfect for being attacked by spawning units. And I'm going to use my corvette with its power to engines mode, which makes it go faster, to just run across the map, not only distracting enemy units and drawing them away from the space station, but looking for enemy missile cruisers. They've got like 4 missile cruisers somewhere on the map, and they can fire at you from so far away that you can't really see them, so you need to hunt them down. Now back over near the station, we were able to pretty much destroy one of the Victory class frigates. Then we discovered two of the cruisers over here on the right hand side of the map, and our corvette can start attacking them. It doesn't have much it can do to defend against the corvette attack since we're too close, and while the corvette's not very strong, it will eventually kill them. Here you can see my corvette just about kill one of them before being destroyed itself. The other one's now being attacked by the turbo lasers on the space station, and my fighters are just annoying the enemy frigates. Once we've blown up their engines and their shield generators, they're just sort of sitting there, so we can keep attacking them, and even X-Wings will have an okay time against gigantic ships because these big frigates don't have any anti-fighter capability. Here's a moment where things really slowed down. One of the enemy's almost disabled ships was just floating there, and my corvette was just floating there next to it, very gradually reducing the health on the hit points on the other side of the ship, the one that can't fire at us. So we were getting some free damage there. Eventually it did turn to attack us, but by now it was so nearly dead that by attacking it with the corvette's lasers and shooting it with the X-Wings, we were able to take out yet another frigate. And that's all of the frigates in the enemy's fleet, so that's pretty good. No matter what happens now, things will be fine. You might notice though that we are now stuck with just this corvette and these X-Wings because the enemy destroyed the hangar on the space station, so we couldn't keep spawning new things. So I just had to see how much damage I could do with what I had left. Went on a hunt to find more missile cruisers, and we were able to find them. I was being shot by these anti-fighter satellites that the enemy built, but our corvette can take that damage, and we won, as you can see. After blowing up some more cruisers, that was everything. So that went absolutely amazingly. We lost technically nothing, although our space station will be de-leveled by the damage that it took. You have to rebuild it back up to level 2, which I think is where it was before. Maybe it's level 3 even. And the enemy lost absolutely loads, so that went really well. Maybe if I wasn't on easy difficulty that wouldn't have been possible, but a nice miraculous win like that means we've probably got some time to now take everything off the front line and go rampage at the back here, trying to take some of these annoying thorns in our sides. We destroy a space station and some scout bikes for free with our fleet. Now it's time to move our ground units over to attack Mon Calamari. This fight's a bit like the one we saw last time at Botha Wui, because not only is it raining, but we have a load of locals fighting on our side. We can use the Mon Calamari troops to scout for enemies and to absorb enemy attacks, perhaps more importantly. So by just sending them forwards in a big squid wave, we can clear the way for our tanks and infantry to have an easier time. They'll absorb all the fire from everything. Our artillery will have plenty of targets to fire at, and the damage will be kept off of our tanks. Plus, since the Mon Calamari infinitely respawn, you don't really need to worry about losing them, they just come back. And this map is a big choke point where the enemy have to go through where we are now to get anywhere, so they can't destroy the buildings that are spawning the Mon Calamari. Here's what happens when you try and attack without your squid shield. My tanks get heavily damaged trying to take out some enemy infantry, but I did discover here the tactic that people were recommending I try, just running the enemy over. And as if in reply, the enemy come at us with TIE Maulers to run a bunch of our guys over. Still, now we know our tanks can defeat infantry in a much more effective way. More Maulers still to come, but we've got enough tanks here to gradually take them out, and much of the infantry dying will come back since they're Mon Calamari. So I need to now just hold this position and essentially await reinforcements, because we can't push in with enemy ATSTs and artillery back there without most likely losing all of our tanks. I did need to take a cheeky look over here so I could see their artillery for a moment, because their artillery was gradually killing my artillery. I was able to just about take it out. Before it destroyed everything, we did lose one of our artillery pieces, but that's okay, and that artillery on the enemy side can't respawn because it was just a regular unit. Now once the squid shield was back, we pushed into the enemy base, destroyed their actual shields, and now just gradually worked our way through their free respawning units, just loads of infantry and ATSTs, which aren't too much now that we have overwhelming numbers on our side. We can also now call in Y-Wings to attack the enemy from the air, and here I discovered that your bombs don't damage your own side, so that was good to know. I was going to try and get out of the way, but then thought, no, let's just find out, and yes, we were fine. Eventually the battle was won after we destroyed the enemy base without any trouble, and in the end we actually lost nothing in that fight. We probably lost 10 or so squads of Mon Calamari troops, but they don't count, which is pretty racist, but oh well. Now the camera glitches out again, and we finally come back to see Mon Calamari under our control. With that sorted, we're just going to continue our rampage to the north, next attacking Kessel. there was a tiny fleet guarding it, nothing too special, so I thought I'll just auto-resolve that since I'm sending so much against them. Maybe the computer will be nice to me. It seems to be pretty nice there. We take out their space station as well. Now we're ready for the ground assault. We can see though they do have at least one unit of 80s in there, the counter to our tanks, so if we don't have something to absorb their damage, that could be an issue. We didn't get to actually make the assault right away, because while I was just pilling about doing nothing without the game paused, because I'm stupid, the enemy come and attack our frontline position. I probably could have just moved the fleet back, as I'm now trying to do, and thinking, oh yeah, should have done that before. So once again, we'll have to try the defend with nothing strategy. We do have a level 3 space station. The enemy fleet's bigger than the one we fought off last time, but still worth a go. Let's see what we can do. Perhaps the biggest problem we have in this case is that the enemy have so many missile cruisers. I think there are 7 of them out here, mostly just sitting out of our range and completely destroying the space station. It's already lost its shields about 20 seconds into things. So I'm sending my fighters to try and find those missile cruisers, because they kind of skirmish away from you once you're close to them and don't fire so much. So we'll keep them distracted with that, but still you can see the station's lost half its health now as well. It's not looking very good. And there is the issue that if they blow up our hangars, we won't be able to respawn units, which will dramatically inhibit our ability to fight. The X-Wings did a pretty good job of distracting and even killing some of the missile cruisers, and we did manage to blow up a frigate there, as you can see with our bombers. However, the missiles we took along the way did in fact blow up the hangar and most of the space station, so we aren't going to be able to fight for as long as we did last time. Fortunately, one of their frigates got disabled right in front of the space station with some bombers still alive, so we gradually killed it, and our X-Wings continued their exploits, destroying multiple missile cruisers flying around on the edge of the map without repercussions, since the enemy just don't want to attack us with their fighters right now. They do have lots of ties around the place, but they're just not using them. They're not going after our bombers or our fighters, so that's all good. We're able to take out the guns on that enemy frigate, and our X-Wings are able to take out another one of the missile cruisers there. They did, as you can see on the right, blow up our space station, but you don't lose the battle until everything you have is still alive, so they need to take out our spawn units as well. So now I'm desperately trying to get our X-Wings to not be distracted by all of the enemy's fighters and just leave them alone and try to get the last few shots we need onto that missile cruiser to take it down, and in this case we are able to blow it up. Now I've got a similar sort of thing to do with that frigate. However, our fighter weapons just aren't enough to really take out a hard point on a frigate while also being attacked by enemy fighters, so we didn't manage it. But overall, a decent enough trade in that fight. Now what I want to do is immediately counterattack. That's why I'm pausing to say, like, just go right for it. But again, you actually can't give valid move orders while the game is paused. So we're going to lose like 1 second by having to give the order in real time, which I was genuinely worried about because ships move so quickly. That 1 second could have been too late. The enemy could have taken the planet before we arrived. Luckily, they didn't. So now we can make a counterattack against a now weakened enemy fleet with 1 less frigate and many fewer missile cruisers. So we can just spam the enemy with our own frigates and overpower them with turbo lasers, while our corvettes do the usual job of keeping the enemy spawning fighters and bombers away. We've got spare corvettes that we don't really need for that role, so they can go off to the edges of the map to find those missile cruisers and take them down, since loads of missile cruisers bombarding our fleet will actually do substantial damage, and I think we do lose something or other along the way here, perhaps a corvette, and we've also taken plenty of damage. Not enough to bring us completely down though. That enemy frigate there's in huge trouble. It's had all of its hard points except for its ion cannon taken out, and eventually a lot of spamming shots will bring it down. There was another missile cruiser off on the edge of the map somewhere. We took it out, and that was the end of that. Oh, there we go, we just lost Y-wings in the end. Probably 2 stray torpedoes that I didn't notice. So there we go, back to where we were before. Our front line is secure again, or secure-ish. You can see now Hutter's still pretty easy to take if the Empire really tried, but hopefully they won't try. Now suddenly it was telling me I had a battle at Kessel, which I was confused by because there was no enemy fleet there, just 2 of my own. I think what they might have done is they've built a space unit at Wayland and have sent it to attack Kessel on its own. So it's just like 1 or 2 ships. In this case, I'm not even going to wait to see what it is. We'll just hyperspace right away, since most of the fleet there is the transports that I had there waiting so they could go and land on the planet and do the ground battle. We did lose 1, but that's not too bad. So now we just take our fleet from Bothawui, go right back over there and see what exactly the fuss is all about. It was just a Victory class cruiser. I think it might have just been on its own. Oh no, there you go, there was a broadside cruiser in there, the missile cruiser. We also took out some enemy transports. So that's that. Now we can prepare for the ground assault on Kessel, and I'm also, as you can see, starting to put something of a second fleet together. My first fleet's still stronger than it used to be, I think, but I wasn't really thinking like that at the time. I give the order for our troops to land on Kessel to take it. This freezes the game for some reason, but after a while it decides this is an acceptable move. In this case I'm going to auto-resolve because there's not much down there and we've got quite a lot, and it only had level 2 base defences, which I thought meant it didn't have many buildings or something that could spawn units at least. We still lose a whole load of things right then, possibly counting as the now 4th or 5th or 6th loss of our ground army, so we'll have to rebuild it again. But anyway, Kessel is taken, and obviously after this we're going to go for Wayland, which will complete the reconquest of our back territories. Once all that's sorted, by the way, I am going to be switching back to medium difficulty. Can't quite remember when I do it, but that's coming at some point. So if you were enjoying seeing me getting taken out at every turn, tune in for future parts of this series.